Are we? There we go. We're live. I moved my desk. I have a new setup. I haven't. You can see a little sensory chaos in the background. I just have my apartment is fantastic, but the layout is really weird and not conducive to filming and like doing any sort of webcam stuff, which I didn't realize when I moved here a couple of years ago. But definitely the next place I look, how easy it is to do video things is definitely going to be a consideration, because it's just like there's no great spot, all things considered, because like I have to move some other stuff. Anyway, that's just my little ramp up intro while I drink some water. Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this without, I got to talk about the drama, but I don't want this video to be about the drama because I think that there is something vastly more important to talk about, and that this reveals. And the long and short of it is that the Facebook groups in particular, I don't know about, I'm not on Reddit. I'm not part of the Reddit community. I'm not on the Discord. I'm only on the Facebook groups. And also like in the YouTube-y kind of community, whatever, right? Of objective personality. And there from day one, truly from day one, the Facebook groups have been explicitly not endorsed by Dave and Shan. The whole reason that the main group is called the unofficial objective personality study group is because they didn't want it to be tied with them. They didn't want it to be anything official. They didn't want anything like that. This is just, hey, we like talking about objective personality. We think it's dope, and we want a place to talk about it. That's all it was. And, whether or not they've been on the groups before or not, or it doesn't fucking matter. I don't care. And I also don't care about the drama and the two. I don't care. Double decider. I don't give a shit. From an admin perspective, obviously, I care very deeply that the Facebook group is a place that is warm and friendly and fun, and a place that people want to hang out that isn't like a toxic shit mess. But as far as the drama itself, I don't really give a shit. But what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about how social media is the best way to run whatever your saviors are. It is the best way to run them into the ground. And in order to really understand that, you got to know how old I am. Because I am soon to be turning 35. And the reason why that is relevant is that I have been on, like, I'm at that weird, almost elder millennial. I consider myself an elder millennial just because of my cohort. But like, I'm at this weird elder millennial group, stage where I lived a lot of my life without the internet, period. And then I lived another good chunk of my life when the internet was really in its, I'm not going to say the internet itself was in its infancy, but certainly in terms of like consumer-based internet was very much in its infancy. I mean, to the point that like nowadays we do kind of take for granted that anything that you would want to know is on the internet. And that was not the case. Like, that just wasn't how the internet worked for a really, really long time. The internet, for all of my childhood and honestly well into college and even like post college, like even when we're getting into like by the time we got to like 2009ish to like 2009 2010, then the internet, like Twitter was, had been out for a couple of years. YouTube was 5 years old in 2010. So like it had it gotten some traction. This sort of like hyper intense information age, whatever. But you got to understand that for a really long time, that wasn't true. And for a really, really long time, social media was not like, it was advertiser driven, kind of, but also not really. And also, nobody gave a shit. Like, there wasn't this bananas complex, like slot machine-y algorithm to engender social media addiction. That just isn't how it worked. So I'm saying this and I'm giving all this preamble because you got to understand what the internet is now and what social media is now is very, very different from how even it was 10 years ago. Before, Facebook became a publicly traded company, before they changed, before they really went hard on the algorithms, even to the point like changing, again, I'm stealing all this. A lot of this is from the Cal Newport class. If you have not watched the Cal Newport class, fucking watch the Cal Newport class. It'll blow your mind. It's everything we need. Cal Newport is right about all of the things. He's right about all the things. Period. He's just right about all the things. And, he talked about how they used to have a nice sort of, not monochrome, but it was all sort of like in this like bluish grayish family. And then they made the notifications red because it got your attention and it got more clicks and they did right. It's a whole thing. And I want to talk about social media in the context of objective personality because I think it's important to understand what being on social media and being part of discussion groups and just being somebody who uses the internet, particularly social media, but I think this is true for all of the internet to some extent. But like really social media, it's so, because it is designed to be addicting. That is the purpose of the algorithm. That is the premise of the whole fucking thing, is that it is addicting. It is meant to be addicting. So as a result, it happens to coincide with your saviors. Because the saviors, the default wiring, whatever nomenclature you want to use, that's what, like, it's not that, oh man, social media is a bitch if you're lead NT because there's just so much NT to do. Yeah, that's true. There's also a lot of NF to do, and SF, and ST, and blasting, and playing, and consuming, and like, that's, you can literally say that about everything because at the root of all of it is the addicting, void-filling behavior. And the pattern of behavior that social media reinforces. So what I want to do in this video is I want to sort of break down how I see each of the different, so I want to talk about each of the letter pairings, NT, NT, ST, SFNF, and also blast, play, consume, and sleep. I'm not going to go too much into the functions themselves. But I think it is, useful, certainly for me, for my own understanding, but I think it's useful to sort of see how really all-encompassing the social media uh, world platform is, and how you're kind of screwed no matter what. So I'm going to start with my own saviors and then move into my demons. So lead NT, I think that lead NT is a pretty obvious way, like it's a pretty obvious addiction that can get fed on the internet and on social media, because it's just, algorithms. Like the mere fact that algorithms are such a driving force of it means that the NT people can just go nuts, getting addicted to social media. But also, just like the internet culture is very abstract, it is very plays to NT. Thank fucking God I'm not an INTP, because I think I'd be like completely screwed. INTJ, I don't have it a lot better. Let me be clear, but like, again, by virtue of the fact that I am a lead blaster and not a lead consume, that sort of curbs it a little bit. But also, there's no shortage of ways for me to just blast. Like what I'm doing right now, I turn on this whole setup. It takes me longer to fucking take a picture of the thumbnail than it does to think of what I'm going to say and the rest of the mechanics setting up a platform for me to blast, right? So again, we're going to get into those in a second, but like NT in particular, there's a huge tech cohort on social media. And talking about technology on social media, and whether it's TED Talks or YouTube videos or whatever, like there is just a lot of digital and tech built into the premise of social media. It's like the two really do kind of go together. It's not impossible to be unaware of NT when you're using social media. But again, because it is a digital platform and NT is kind of, again, the algorithms and zeros and ones and abstract systems, like they do kind of go together pretty well. So, again, I think that one is a pretty clear way that you can just go nuts, going all in on the NT, using social media, finding other NT, nerds, abstract thinkers, not hard, right? ST is a little tricky, and this is one that like it took me a while to really understand, like what is social media ST. And I think that social media ST, I think you see it a lot less on Facebook specifically. I see the ST stuff happening a lot more on places like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is much more about like, if you are savior ST, lead ST, whatever, I think that you're going to have a tough time going like really, really all in on Facebook stuff, just because it's not animalistic. It's very, again, it's like, well, ST, when we sort of think of ST, we're looking at like, whether it's data and spreadsheets, or if it's, chopping wood or food. Like, yes, some of that you can kind of go into that on Facebook. Maybe if it's like a recipe group, like a very practical sort of thing like that. But I would say that on Facebook in particular, it's very, very hard to get too sucked into just ST. I think you're going to hit a wall with ST faster than any other of the letter pairings, for sure. On Facebook, again, LinkedIn, that you can go you can go bonkers and fucking yonkers do an ST on LinkedIn. And, YouTube, I think YouTube is another avenue. You probably aren't going to, again, it depends. There is a lot of ST on YouTube, a lot of tutorials, a lot of how-tos, a lot of these are the steps and this is the process and this joint goes in this axle and I don't know how things work. But like you know what I'm saying, right? But if you're ST, I think that you're not going to have as tough a time with Facebook, just because you're gonna hit a wall when it comes to ST on Facebook in particular. SF, oh boy, if you are Savior SF, fucking Godspeed if you're Savior SF. Just because, again, the algorithms, they're designed to engage the animal, to excite the animal, that like lizard brained, I want the shiny thing. Hell, even how about this is what's fucking genius. This is one of the most incredible things that I have seen in terms of like gaming understanding the gaming of the algorithm, like the NT of it, to get the SF reaction. It's crazy. So the way that the ads go is the data mining, and the way that it sort of learns your patterns is if you spend a certain amount of time on an ad, then it will think like, oh, you like this. This is interesting. This is engaging. I'm going to show you more of this until you click it. And they also do this with, like, again, the auto playing the videos. And you sort of see how the SF is getting gamed, because these videos, they'll have music and they'll like really grab your attention really quickly with some sort of like inflammatory statement. It's like, do you want to lose weight? Well, let me tell you how not to do it. Don't give up all of carbs. Don't give up all fat. Don't give up, right? And it'll have like however many, 30 seconds of just like animalistic whatever, right? But this one is fucking genius. I think it was for the show Call Your Mother. Some new Alexa dismiss. I don't know why Alexa was on. Anyway, so I think it was for a show called Call Your Mother. And the ad was, you scroll to the ad, and this woman who plays the mom in the show, I guess, I don't know, is like, wait, stop. Don't keep scrolling. And this like very like intense, like, oh my God, my mother, again, because it's the premise of the fucking show, my mother is telling me, stop scrolling. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, okay. God damn it. And then once you do that enough, then the algorithm thinks, oh, you must want to see this. Oh, you must want, and it's like a great promote. But again, it's attacking your SF. It's attacking your SF. And it's not to say that if you don't, if you have Demon SF or you have Savior NT, it's not to say that you won't fall victim to shit like that. But if you're Savior SF, there is absolutely no shortage of just animalistic candy pleasure to just be a part of on Facebook. Again, the algorithm is designed to hack our SF. So if you're Savior SF, again, we're only talking about how easy is it to run yourself into the ground. And I think that for SF, it's very, very easy. NF, this is a new one. If you had asked me before 2015, how easy would it be to like go overboard and go nuts on the NF on Facebook, on social media, I would have said it was kind of difficult. And now I'm honestly kind of wondering if NF is the easiest thing to go all in on. Because you have the abstract, right? You have the N. Social media is, an absolute minefield for Savior, and because it's not real, it doesn't feel real. Like there's nothing tangible about it. It's again, it's abstract. It's people on the internet. It's ones and zeros. It's whatever. But then you also get the feeling. And again, because at this point, because social media is so fractured and so polarized and so politicized, whatever you believe, you can find not just someone, but a cohort that agrees with you. It is the easiest thing in the world to find people who agree with you on Facebook. It's also very easy to find people who disagree with you, but it's a lot harder animalistically to run towards that. Now, if it's equally easy in terms of logistics, right, to find people who agree with me or disagree with me, but it's animalistically way easier to be around people who I agree with and who agree with me, obviously I'm going to go in that direction. So, but with the NF, it's so fucking crazy how just buck wild down the NF rabbit hole you can go on social. There is no shortage of crazy wackadoo bullshit. It's nuts. It's unbelievable. Just how much NF exists on social media. And I'm honestly very, very tempted to say that NF is the hardest appetite to curb because social media just hits you with values all the time. This is what you should believe. This is what is right. This is what is wrong. Share this meme. Be a part of this group, right? It plays on the tribe dynamic. And the reason why I say that NF, I'm actually giving the edge to NF over SF. And the reason why is that with SF, again, if we're talking about when are you going to hit the wall, I think that for SF, at some point, you're going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't real. This isn't satisfying my physical self. I can only look at Pinterest and look at whatever, cute animal, whatever it is. Listen, I love kitties. I have a deep, borderline problematic love of kitties. When I look at kitty pic, that hits my SF. Holy shit. Kitties are the best, and I love them. But here's the thing. Eventually, I'm going to be like, this kitty, I can't cuddle a fucking screen. Eventually, the SF. Now, again, for me, I hit that limit sooner because it's a demon. But just in general, at some point, the S is going to be you maybe should try to cuddle an actual real sensory fucking kitten in real life. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. Right? Again, you can still definitely drive yourself off a cliff on the SF. But with the NF, there really does seem to be no limit. Whatever failsafes organically are in place for the ST, they're turbo not there for the NF. And I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of people straight ruined relationships. Their entire social circle because they just went all in on the NF nonstop. And it got to the point where people are like, I can't fucking talk to you anymore. Like, you're just living in this NF fantasy bubble that has no bearing on reality. I can't even fuck with you. Like, I can't, like, your tribe is so small now because you're just going to keep going further and further in NF territory. And because it's abstract, because there's no like sensory bounds, you can just go off a cliff. You can just go off a cliff. Again, I want to be very clear. Regardless of what your savior temperament is, you can overindulge it on social media. Period. But I also think that it is worth noting that certain savior temperaments have it easier than others and have it harder than others. Again, I think that the limit on the sensory is relevant. I think that the sensory sort of caps out before the intuition, and I think the thinking caps out before the feeling. And that's purely a function of the design and the algorithms and all of that stuff. But again, at the core of all of this is addiction and filling a void that you know can never be filled, and just going all in and being like, well, that didn't work. I just need more of it. And that's how it, right? To break the addictive pattern, you have to go, this thing I'm doing isn't working. I need to do a different thing. I need to find a different coping mechanism, a different, healthier way to fill this void. Not, this is amazing. This was, and then you crash. The solution is, oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to avoid these spikes. I need something a little more even tempered. Not, well, maybe if I go higher enough, then the amount of crash, like I won't crash as low. But that's not how spikes and crashes work. It's not like, well, you know, I was up to a 5 and then down to a -5. So that's a crash. That's an up a 5 and a crash a 10. So maybe if I go to 10, then I'll crash the same 10 and I'll be down to 0 and that will be fine. No, not how it fucking works. If you go up 10, you're going to go down 10. That's how the spikes work. So as far as blast, play, consume, and sleep, right? Again, I can just blast all fucking day. I throw on a webcam, turn on a light, set up a microphone, hit record. It takes me 30 seconds. I can just blast to my heart's content. The only limit on me blasting is just like vocal fatigue. That's it. And back when before I started recording videos on social media and I was like typing long ass posts, there was no limit. Like I could just blast my opinion all day long. All day long. It is mass communication. I can just blasty. That's it. And same with consume. So I think that consume is probably the most obvious like thing to be aware of like, if I have savior consume, then social media in general is a place that I just need to be careful of, because nothing's going to stop me from consuming all of the things. Like, even if your interest is like really, really niche and narrow, there's just the amount of content that's going to get generated is so vast that if you're actually consuming it and processing it with your DI, you're never going to run out of shit to do. I mean, you'll be up all day and then it's bad. Again, I've seen people just mono consume and they don't do anything and they just consume all day. And it's a shame. It's a shame because they're smart people and have a lot to offer, but because of social media they get stuck in this, like, I have to keep downloading. No, I got to keep downloading more. I got to keep reading more. I got to keep learning more. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to know enough. I just have to keep learning more and more and more. And you're like, oh fuck, dude, no, what? You're fine. You're fine. Do something. You have the knowledge. Play is an interesting one. Play is a very interesting one. I would say that first off, I think that for all of these, blast, play, consume, sleep, where would play fall? So if consume is probably the most, I don't know. I think play and consume are really tied for me. Again, because it is about new and gathering, whether it's gathering for yourself, playing with others, like getting in discussion groups. There's no limit to the number of discussion groups you can join. And especially, I'm in the process of weaning myself off of social media and Facebook anyway. But the first thing that I have started to really cull is my relationship to discussing things in the discussion groups. Like, I don't get involved in the discussions anymore because I don't fucking have time or the energy anymore to play with the tribe all day. And it's tough because I love playing with the tribe. Double activated savior play. Hell yes, I love to play with the tribe. But like, you can definitely run yourself off a cliff when it comes to having savior play, for sure. Because it's about social networking, and so it is social, meaning it has the DE, and it's new and gathering in, and the vast world of the internet. Like, there's a never-ending stream of content to engage with people in and interact with people in. It's tough. It's tough. It's something you really got to be careful of if you are savior play. Savior sleep, this one took me a while. This one really took me a while. Like, if you're like a lead sleep, how can you run yourself into the ground using social media? And it took me a while, and I just sort of did the math on it. And I was like, okay, so if the problem with savior play, and the reason why social media enables savior play addictions, is that it is nothing but new and different people all the time. Savior sleep would have the inverse issue. And again, just to zoom out for a second, this is sort of what we're looking for in objective personality. Like, we're looking for complementary opposites, binary coins. If this, then not that, right? And so I think about, I sort of broke it down to be like, okay, well, what are the dangers of OI on the internet? And I think that the big danger of OI in general on the internet is that you don't have to seek out new perspectives. Like, you can find a Facebook group with, 500 people, which is really small by Facebook group standards. But it's weird. It's super small by Facebook group standards, but by actual human tribe evolution standards, 500 people is way more people than a tribe can sustain. Like, it would have to break off into 5 different tribes of 100 to 125. Because it's not a sustainable, that's not how humans' brains work. It's not how we're designed to do the things. But that's a relatively small group by Facebook standards. And even with a group that small, you can just like get into the group and then just do the same thing and never seek out an outside opinion, an outside source. You don't have to worry about impressing people. Like, again, in a Facebook group, if your goal is to like just save your sleep, you know, this is my opinion over and over and over again, like no one's gonna stop you. You're not, if you're not receptive to the feedback, you're just gonna keep doing it because you're like, well, yeah, of course I can just say the same thing over and over and over again. No one's stopping me. No one's banned me from the group if I do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, obviously everything is fine. No, everything is not fine. You haven't changed your views in 3 years. Maybe check in. Oh, also, no one likes your posts. Like nobody's look at your numbers. You started out by getting an average of 15 to 20 likes per post, and then over the years that's gone down to 3 because people are just fucking sick of you because you don't check in with anybody else and all you care about is just living in your own subjective head. That's not, no. But even those are just like my off the top of the dome sort of observations, just sort of using the math of OP to be like, here is one plausible way that your savior animal or temperament can run you into the ground. But at the end of the day, even if you are, ST lead double activated sleep, right? If you're like, have it the easiest, you're still like super, super likely to run yourself off a cliff on social media. And that's because humans we weren't designed for social media to be our primary form of communication, interaction. It's a marketplace, but it's not real. Like it's like our brain is getting electrical signals, but they aren't being stimulated by anything in the physical real world. It's just a computer program like firing off electrons. Again, I don't know things. I don't know how the science works, but it's very, very different from the adrenaline. This way, the adrenaline rush that you get from seeing a new notification is your brain can't distinguish between that kind of urgency and the urgency of saber-toothed tiger running at me on the Serengeti. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna die, right? If you do not click on the notification, you quite literally will not die. Unless you are in some sort of weird saw fucking torture chamber, you will not literally die. You live that objectively, literally will not happen to you. Whereas with saber-tooth tiger, you could die. Like saber-tooth tiger running at you, if you twist your ankle and don't have a spear, like you're just dead. You're just a dead person. And so feeling that sense of urgency and immediacy with saber-tooth tiger, very, very useful. Because, your actual literal survival is at stake. But that is not the case on social media. It just isn't. But it tricks your brain into thinking, hey, Cassandra, how's it going? Well, welcome to the live chat. Hello. But with social media notifications, they're just not. And again, this is where it gets into like a nomenclature thing, right? Is it urgent? Is it important? Okay, well, relative to what? Like, reading a message from somebody, it may be urgent relative to everything else, that you are currently experiencing, but it's not urgent relative to all of the things that could, like, the ratio, like the percentage of things of urgent, right? If these are all the things that could be considered urgent. Let me get the lighting right. So if it's like this, right? And this is saber-toothed tiger 5 feet away from you, and this is, I don't know, I'm a little hungry, I'm a little thirsty, right? Get this right. Notification is like here. Like it's just here. It's just here. So yes, if the most intense thing you experience is really close to that, then like your frame of reference is really narrow, then yeah, the notification is going to seem incredibly urgent and important relative to all of the things that you experience. But on the spectrum, a missed notification is genuinely not the end of the world. And I think it's really important. If you have not watched the Cal Newport class, I'm begging you, watch the Cal Newport class. I'm getting his book. I haven't read the book. I wasn't ready to get to like fully appreciate what he was saying. And look, obviously, this whole past year like doesn't fucking count. Like whatever you were doing from March 11th until now doesn't count. Doesn't matter. We did what we thought we needed to do to cope with this once in a multi-generation thing that just happened, that we had no frame of reference for because it happened. The last time we had it happen, it was so long ago. The technology was different. The way the world worked was different. Social media, they're engineered to feel like a live wire in your bot. No, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. But I think it's important to understand. Let me put it this way. If your goal is to reduce your social media use and to break your addiction to social media, which I think is a very important thing for everyone. Not saying leave social media, but I think it is very important to break our addiction to social media to whatever extent that we have an addiction individually. But I think that a really helpful step is using OP to go, okay, so I know that like for me, I'm lead NT and lead blast. So my impulse is to use social media to talk about abstract nerd shit and to just give my opinion all the time to the tribe and tell the tribe what to do and give them instructions. Okay, great. That's really good to know. So as I'm starting to curb my addiction and starting to use it more healthily, that's a really good triangulation point. And say, okay, I need to dial back the amount of NT that I allow in, right? And I also need to dial back the amount that I blast. And again, listen, during the pandemic, we had no other means of communicating and interacting. So like, I'm giving myself a pass. I'm giving all you a pass. Whatever you did during the pandemic, because real life, actual sensory interaction was illegal, literally prohibited by the government. So thank you for not doing that. But now that we're starting to get back into the swing of things, and being real people again, that's something to look out for. That's something I'm really going to look out for. And I'm like, listen, if I'm If I feel myself spending too much time blasting on social media, then I know that, I'm actually maybe going down a road I don't need to go down. And the onus is on me to find other avenues, whether it's to blast or to do NT stuff. And I'll end on this. I always think of, PTA meetings as being a weirdly healthy, societal touchstone. And the reason I like it is because when you're at a PTA meeting, there's some commonality, right? Like just geographically, everybody at a PTA meeting for a public school lives near the school, right? Which, because it's America, means they have a similar amount of money, probably, and et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, there's like a lot more nuance to that. But broadly speaking, we all kind of live in the same area. All of our kids go to this school. We're all broadly dealing with this similar-ish issues, right? If it's, the drama club wants to put on Rent and some of the parents are up in arms about it. Well, if you go to the PTA meeting, you're going to hear 125 very, very different opinions about Rent and whether or not the drama club should do it. And that's really healthy. Not only is it healthy because it forces you out of your little teeny tiny bubble, but you're not getting, this is what, if I'm, live in New Mexico, random person who lives in New Jersey, I don't have to care about their opinion. Like, there is a limit to the number of opinions that I need to consider and to bring into my worldview. And the internet just has no limits. There's no limiter. It's a complete free-for-all. You can just run yourself off a fucking cliff. Which is weirdly why, YouTubers can be so typeable and so useful for learning how to, type, because the internet just lets them run their saviors into the ground. And it's why you see the video for 3 years, and then, hey guys, Demon Crash time. And then whatever they do after that is whatever they do. Right. So this is somewhat like a little blaster lesson, but it's also my FI feels very passionate about making it clear how dangerous social media can be if you don't use it mindfully. And if you aren't deliberate about setting those limits for yourself, which, listen, sleep last, setting limits for myself, I am fucking one to talk. I get it. But I recognize that is in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's setting a limit on how much you consume, how much you play, how much you blast, even how much you sleep, like how much you just are all in on your one thing, your one little niche, whatever, without looking at the whole fucking rest of the internet, which is at your fingertips. I tell you what, I know some double activated save your sleep people who just weirdly have run themselves into the ground because of social media, because they find themselves in a little tiny hole, and then they're like, well, hang on a second. I don't know how to get out of it. The whole internet is right there. You can talk to literally anybody, gather literally anything. You are not limited. So again, these are just different flavors of how this addiction manifests. But I feel very, very strongly that it's important that we understand the kinds of conversations that social media encourages. What is sleep, man? That's a great question. I might redo my old series just with like new understandings. But the very short version is sleep is just doing the same thing regardless of new information and the approval of others. That's the very short version of how I see sleep. So thank you for listening to my sort of rant and ramble. And I think that social media can be used for a lot of good, but I think that it is something you have to be very, very, very conscious and deliberate about every time you use it, especially if you are using social media to feed your saviors. Boy, oh boy, do you got to be careful. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!